In this video, I'm going to be teaching how I made this particular top. This is the sewing tutorials. I already have the pattern drafting on my channel, so if you are interested in it, kindly go check it out and then come back to watch this sewing video to understand it better. So I use this medium interfacing 2 yards of Ankara fabric and then 2 yards of lining. I also use this design velvet material for the upper part of the blouse, and then this is the wadding I used at the breast area. I also added this foam to it to make it firm, and the last thing I used was this hermit to fuse the bra foam onto the fabric. So I went ahead to lay my fabrics down this way, and then I added 1.5 inches on the side, and then at any other part I added 1/2 inch. So 1.5 inches on the side, and every other part you add 1/2 inch. If you want to, you can add 1 inch to the lower parts for folding, but then 1 inch is enough for that. So I'll go ahead and then cut out my work to show you what I did next. So this is me cutting every piece out with 1/2 inch seam allowance all round it. After cutting it out, this is what I have. I have every piece cut out. So on your brown paper, wherever you see a line, just make a snip or notch at that area like I'm doing. Just cut through that point just a little, so that when you are joining, you know exactly which side is meeting which side. Next thing I went ahead to do was to cut out my lining piece with my main fabric, and the next thing I'll do is to fuse each piece on this soft interfacing. So take your time and then press it, make sure it sticks on it very well before you cut out. You are going to fuse this on every piece of the cutout fabric. So I went ahead to fuse each piece, and this is what I have. This is the front part of my top, and then at this point I'm going to be cutting it on my wadding. So you are going to make sure you place it on it like this, and then you are going to be cutting it all round, and then this is how you are going to shape it. So what I did first was to mark 1.5 inches, that is my stitching allowance, and then after that I went in by 1 inch and I connected from the under bust to join that 1 inch, just like you seen me doing. I don't have to do this on the fabric, but then I'm doing it for you to see. It's supposed to be done on the wadding. So I went ahead to trace it onto my wadding, and this is what I have. So I'm going to cut it out, but then before I did, I went ahead to go in by 1/2 inch all round except on the side. So this is what I meant. So I'm going to be going in by 1/2 inch to the side, and then 1/2 inch on the upper part. Join them together, and then I'm going to be cutting that part off. Note, it is optional. You can decide to leave it and then sew, but when you leave it and you sew, it becomes bulky at that particular area. That is why I always trim that side off before placing it on my fabric. So this is what you are going to get when you trim off that 1/2 inch from it. So next thing I did was to do the same thing to the other side of the blouse. So I marked 1.5 inches in like I did for the other side, and then I went in by 1 inch again, marked my under bust, and then connected the points together just like you see me doing. So I went ahead to mark 1/2 inch in like I did for the other side as well, joined them together, and then I went ahead to cut it out. After cutting it out, this is how it looks like when it is placed on your fabric. So next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the pieces together like this. I'm going to be using this sides to guide me cut out the center part of my top. So I'm going to be placing them together. Remember, I made notches at the point, so I'll make sure the points are aligning. Make sure the points are aligning like you see me doing. So the under bust, the bust area, the chest, and every other part are aligning, and then mark the points. So this is me marking the points down so that I can join them together. So after making the points, I went ahead to join the upper part together, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the under bust together as well so that I can cut out my wadding. So this is what I have at this point. You can see it doesn't really look straight. You can decide to make it straight, but when I did it this way, it came out nice. So what I'm going to be doing is to place it on my wadding, but before I do that, I'm going to be adding that 1/2 inch on the other side to it so that after tracing it on the wadding, I can cut it out. I'm doing this because I did it for the other side, so I want you to understand exactly what I'm doing. Remember, I trimmed off 1/2 inch from the wadding on both sides, so I'm adding that 1 into it because I started this where there was a cutout of my wadding, so that is why I added it to it. So I'll go ahead and join the points together and then cut it out. But before that, I went ahead to mark the 1/2 inches. Remember, I took 1/2 inch off both sides, so I'm going to be repeating the same thing on this side as well. So this is what I have now. After cutting it out, this is how it came out. Let me place it on my fabric to show you. So this is what you are going to be getting when you trim it off, just like this. Next thing I'll be doing is to fuse it onto the fabric. So I went ahead to cut out the same thing on my bra foam. This is the bra foam and the wadding. So first thing I did was to place the wadding on my fabric and then press it down since it has a sticky part on the back. So that is where I am pressing it down. Next thing I did was to cut out my hemmets into smaller bits or pieces and then place it on every part of the wadding so I can fuse my bra foam to it. So when fusing this, it's going to take some time because the bra foam is thick and the wadding is equally thick, so you need to take your time and you need a lot of patience to do this. So after fusing it, this is what I have. I'm going to be repeating the same step on every other part with the wadding. So the wadding first before the bra foam, then you fuse all together so that it can stick together. So after fusing, this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the pieces together, and I'm joining it with wherever there is a cut. Remember, I made notches on every part. There was a line, that is the chest, the bust, and then the under bust line and my waistline. So make sure you are joining all those points or parts together correctly, and then take it to your machine and stitch. So I already added 1/2 inch seam allowance whilst cutting, so that is what you are going to be stitching, 1/2 inch seam allowance all around. After that, the next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the back together. So whilst you are working on the main fabric, make sure you are working on the lining as well. So I'm joining all the parts or pieces together so that it will become one piece. So with the back, you are joining only this part together. The other parts will be joined together with the zip, so that is why it is left out. So I went ahead to cut out my velvet as well. So with my brown paper that is on the upper part of my top. So this is it, and I added 1/2 inch seam allowance all around it. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to press this. But then since we trimmed off 1/2 inch from the part we joined, you can decide not to press this upper part because the cap has already taken shape. So all you have to do is to open up the seams from the lower part to the under bust and then press it down. You can decide to press the bust area as well if you want to, but then with this way we did it, even if you don't press it, you are good to go. So I'm going to turn it to the other side and then press, and at this point I'll put my tailor ham under and then repress it just a little on the front side or the right side. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to join these pieces together. So I'm going to be joining all the lower parts together. All the lower parts, that is the parts facing down, and then with the sleeve you are sewing the parts facing your arm. So after that I went ahead to snip all around just like this, and then I'll go ahead and press it. So I use a piece of cloth to cover it so that it doesn't ruin the design in the fabric. So this is what I have after everything. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to place each piece where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to be placing it down and then stitch 1/2 inch on the upper part. So you see with this part I was supposed to add 1 inch to it, but then I added only 1/2 inch to it. So take note of that and then add your full measurement to it. I did the same thing with the front. I added 1.5 inch seam allowance to the side, but that I didn't add anything to this side, so I recorrected it. So do it so that you don't repeat or make my mistakes. So next thing I'm going to be doing is also to place this on my sleeve and then stitch 1/2 inch as well. So after stitching it down, next thing I'm going to be doing is to now add your lining to each piece. So remember you stitched 1/2 inch down, just stitch on that line to join it, and I'm doing the same thing for the front as well, and then my sleeve too. So after joining, this is what I have. So I'm going to be snipping all around so that when I turn it out it can lie down flat. So after snipping, I'll go ahead and top stitch on the lining. After that I went ahead to cut out the excess so that it doesn't or won't look bulky when I turn it out. So after trimming it up, this is what I have. So next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the lower parts together. So just pin them together and stitch 1/2 inch or whatever seam allowance you added. I'm going to be putting the sleeves where it's supposed to be. I was supposed to do it before I join it together, but then I skipped that part, so I'm repeating it so that you can see what I did. So just pin it where it's supposed to be and turn your lining on top of it like this and stitch. So I stitched 1/2 inch on that area down, but then before you stitch, you are ending the stitch where the inserted sleeve ends. So I'm going to be stitching it down, and then this is what I have after turning it. I'm going to be turning it to the other side and then join the lower parts as well. So just flip it or turn it around this way. Open up the seams, open up the seam of the lining and then the seam of the main fabric, and then pin them together before you pin any other part. I added 1/2 inch seam allowance at the lower part or the hem, so that is what I'm going to be stitching. So I'm going to be stitching from that point through. After that, I'll go ahead and snip that area so that when I turn it out, it will lie down flat. So When you get to this point, just cut it to the tip and then you are good to go. So I went ahead to turn it out to show you what I have. Next thing I did was to turn out the back as well, and then I went ahead to press each piece down. So press it down to give it a nice look. So this is what I have after pressing it out. You can see it has taken a nice shape. After that, I went ahead to join the back parts of the top to the front, just like this. So after placing it on, you are going to open it up this way, and then you are going to be opening up the seams, the seam of the lining and then the main fabric. Pin the seams down together before you pin any other side. Pin the seams together before you pin any other side. This will help you get it accurately. I'll be repeating the same step on this side. Open up the seam and then pin any other side together just like this. Take it to your machine and stitch. After stitching, because I have a lot of layers, it's going to be very bulky over there, so I went ahead to trim it off, and I'll be doing the same thing to the other side. Take note of the corner, so I mean the center between the main fabric and the lining, and trim that part off. So this is what I have now. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to join the sides. So whatever seam allowance you added to the side, mark it down and then take it to your machine and stitch it down. After stitching, this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to fix my zipper. I have a tutorial on how to fix a zipper on my channel, so you can check that out. And I'll be linking it in the description box. I'll be putting it in the description box. So at this point, I'll be fixing the sleeves, and I went ahead to mark or measure my armhole. So you're going to be measuring your armhole to determine the measurement. So after measuring it, whatever you get, you are going to be drafting it or cutting it out on your fabric. I'm cutting it out on the lining first because I think it is more visible. First thing I did was to mark 4.5 inches down from the upper part. Note this fabric is folded into 4. So I went ahead to connect the points together just like this. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is to put in my sleeve length, which is 7 inches, and add extra 1 into it for folding, so making 8 inches. I went ahead to connect the points together to get a straight line. Next thing I did also was to put in my armhole divided by 2 on this particular line. After that, you are going to be marking your round sleeve measurements and then mark it down there. Add 1 into it for sewing, and then repeat the same thing on the lower or the line beneath it. Connect the points together like I've done, and then you are going to be coming down by 3.5 inches. Note if you are bustier, 4 inches or 4.5 is okay for you. After that, I'm going to be drawing in the curve for my armhole. So I'm going to be extending that point down so I know where exactly the armhole ends. So this line looks so flat for me. I'll go ahead and then redraw it to get a better line. So I went ahead to mark or measure it, and then I marked my armhole measurement divided by 2. So this is where I corrected the armhole because I needed a bit curvier so that it will sit well. So I went ahead to mark my armhole well, like I said, and at this point I'll go ahead and connect the points together. I added extra 1 into the armhole for sewing. After that, I went ahead to mark from that corner down. Note this particular point is optional. I just want to get something like a puff on the sleeve. That is why I extended the cap. But if you don't want it and you want a normal shirt, you are starting from this point down. You don't need that upper cap I just drew. So at this point, I'm done with the sleeve and I'll go ahead and cut it out. I'll be cutting the same thing on my main fabric. So this is it. Then I trimmed off about 1/4 of an inch from the lining so that when I turn it out, the lining won't be showing. Next thing I did was to open it up this way with right side facing each other. I'm going to be laying it on top of each other. So just like this, and then I'll do the same thing for the other sleeve. Take it to my machine and then stitch 1/2 inch. After stitching the 1/2 inch, I'll go ahead and turn it out this way. This is what I have now. Next thing I'm going to be doing is to make gathering stitches at the top. I'm going to be making gathering stitches at the top because of the extension I added. After stitching, I went ahead to pull out my gathers. So you need a gathers at the upper part. So make sure you gather everything to the upper part. That is the only place I need the gathers. So I put it all to that side. Now measure my armhole again and then tie the thread. Go ahead and then stitch 1/2 inch on the side. So this is the cap I was talking about. See, it has taken that particular shape. So I'm going to be stitching 1 inch on the side, and then this is the final look of the sleeve. Next thing I'll be doing is to fix it on my top. So I'm going to be looking for the midpoint of the sleeve and then the midpoint of my shoulder. So after getting the 2 points, I'll be pinning the center parts together. So after pinning the center now, you can now pin any other part, but make sure you pin the center first because that is the most important part right now. And then after that, I'll go ahead and turn it in this way and join the seams together. After joining the seams together, I'll take it to my machine and stitch the armhole. So this is the final look of the dress or the blouse after stitching the armhole. Thanks for watching. See you another time. Bye.